This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 146 of Horse Tip Daily, a different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you one day at a time. Today's tip is sponsored by Equestrian Collections for the whole universe of equestrian shopping at your fingertips at a price you can afford. Enjoy today's tip. Hi, everybody. Glenn the Geek back with you from Lexington, Kentucky, and you're listening to Horse Tip Daily. Well, today I have back with me one of my favorite horse dentists in the country. He is one of the most popular equine dentists on Twitter and in real life, too. His website's called theequinepractice.com, and he's Dr. Geoff Tucker. He uses the tagline, Equine Dentistry Without Drama, as an advocate of no power tools. He's done a number of tips with us, and you can find them all by going to horsetipdaily.com and searching under the left-hand side there, the drop-down menu for Dr. Geoff Tucker, and that's Geoff. I do like talking to Dr. Tucker. I apologize because we do get off on tangents sometimes, but it's a whole lot of fun just to hear about his adventures in equine dentistry all up and down the East Coast of the United States. But before we get to Dr. Tucker, I'd like to speak about one of his favorite companies, and that's Equestrian Collections. Right now, Equestrian Collections is highlighting their vast array of products for the dressage riders and the jumpers that are all competing down in Florida right now. And it's right on their homepage. If you go to equestriancollections.com, you'll see their wide selection. And they have a ton of products for you if you're a competitor, as well as if you're not a competitor, they have a section right on their homepage called Hitting the Trails, where all their trail riding products as well. You can get almost anything you need at equestriancollections.com, so check them out today. Well, let's get to Dr. Geoff Tucker. Well, hi, Dr. Tucker, and welcome back to Horse Tip Daily again.
Hey, Glenn. How are you?
You are a regular on this show now.
I love it.
I wanted to remind everybody that you can go to our website at horsetipdaily.com, and on the left-hand side of the page, there's a drop-down menu with all of the experts on there. Just choose Dr. Tucker, and you can listen to all his tips at one time. They're all on one page if you do it that way.
So yeah, I do daily.
That's a little trick there for you. Well, Dr. Tucker, what do you have for us today?
I forget what I talk about, so I go there. What do I talk about now?
That's right. That's right. I have to go, I putting these out every day. I don't remember who I did which day, so my website's a good reference for me.
It's a great reference. Everyone should go there and indulge.
There's a lot of, this little show has now become the second most listened to show on the network behind Stable Scoop. And it shocks me.
it should, because you've got me talking about teeth, and you got somebody talking about photography, you talk about training, you talk about psychology. It's phenomenal.
Well, I think it's because we have such a diverse set of topics. It's not, no day is the same.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people like it. It's a little fun, and it's a little different. So.
Well, I've talked a lot about teeth, and I've also talked about the gallbladder. But I want to go back to teeth for a second and a little philosophy that I'm trying to put forward. And that philosophy, Glenn, is who is your horse's advocate? And I don't think I'm the first person to use that, but I think that we have to become educated. And through your Horse Tips Daily, people are becoming educated, because there are a lot of charlatans out there. There's a lot of people who are trying to put forward theories that are unproven. And I have a whole article that I wrote called What Kind of Science Are You Practicing? It's anecdotal versus evidence-based medicine. And it's kind of a difficult subject to talk about, but it applies to teeth and applies to everything else that's out there. We are inundated with anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal means I'll give you a great example. There's a time about 500 years ago, and that's a short time ago, that we looked up in the sky and we said, oh, look, the sun is rotating around us and the stars are rotating around us. It's amazing. The earth is the center of our universe, and that's what we all believed. And then some guy came along named Galileo, and he said, I don't think that's the way it is. And I think it goes the other way. And he gathered evidence, and he tried to prove it and wrote a book, and he's thrown in jail, and his books are burned. And the only reason why it wasn't burned at the stake was his college roommate was the Pope, and the Pope got him off. He said, look, you burn your books and recant, and I'll let you go. And then this guy Copernicus came by and he says, no, I have more evidence. And he proved to the world that we are rotating around the sun. And it goes even further than that. And now it's standard evidence that we have enough evidence based that proves that we do rotate around the sun. So laying that groundwork, we have a lot of science that comes out in veterinary medicine that looks good, but it's not. And here I'm flipping the roles because we're trying to get good evidence-based medicine for dentistry, and there's not enough numbers. There's not enough proof. I'll give you a good example. There's something called incisor reduction, and that's where a dental practitioner, will actually cut the upper teeth and the lower teeth, the very front ones, the nippers, and he will level them off. And he'll say, this is perfect. This will help align the jaw and get an equal movement sideways and allow the molars to come together.
Okay, so hold on in there a second because we're not looking at any pictures here. So
Yeah.
it's the front teeth.
Yes.
And what's he do?
They cut them to make them perfectly level so that when somebody takes the jaw of the horse in a relaxed state and moves it side to side, and it's like moving your jaw from side to side.
So there's no friction then at all.
Well, they're actually trying to create friction between the grinding
okay.
teeth, the
Gotcha.
cheek teeth. And they're saying that if you don't cut the incisors, then the back teeth aren't going to wear properly, and the jaw is going to get out of alignment and blah, blah, blah. Well, it all sounds good, and they have math behind it, and everything really, it makes sense, but to me, it makes absolutely no sense because for two reasons. One, I float lots of horses' teeth, and I've never touched the incisors, and they seem to do just fine. And number two, when I chew a piece of meat or a mouthful of salad, my molars don't come together, nor do my incisors come together. They all stay open. Next time you chew, if you're not biting your tongue, and just think about it, your teeth don't come together. They're just chewing the bolus to get it down there and mashing it up. And another reason was the guy who invented incisor reduction actually called it a profit center, and he has no science behind it, but it's something that you can see with your eyes, and therefore you're more easy to go into your purse. And I don't want to sound too negative here, but that's really where it started. And I know the guy who knows the guy who started it, and that's what he said. So I was over in Scotland, and I was talking to Paddy Dixon. He's a veterinarian over at University of Edinburgh, and he's done more research on dentistry than anybody I know. And he and I had the privilege of sitting down together one-on-one, having lunch, and he said, what do you think about incisor reductions? I said, I don't think there's any scientific proof behind it. I think it's wrong and it shouldn't be done. I think your biggest problem is the back teeth, and take care of that. And he smiled and he says, that's what we're finding over here. In fact, one of your esteemed colleagues over in the United States actually caused the death of a horse by doing the incisor reduction. And I said, yes, I know. And I've heard year after year of about 1, 2, maybe 3 horses every year that dies from this procedure. And I think 1 death is enough. I don't think I need 2 or 3 deaths to realize that this probably isn't the right thing. That they die because the teeth become infected from the cutting process. The infection moves into the bone, and then they can't cure it, and the horse basically starves because he can't chew.
So they actually it would be like taking our front teeth and cutting them down a half or quarter or eighth of an inch or something.
Well, I know that's a good visual, but I try to make sure that we understand these are not human teeth. These are horse teeth. Okay. But they still do have a pulp in there, and if it gets infected, it will go up into the bone, the socket, and it'll kill these horses. And I've heard of these cases from veterinarians and from veterinary surgeries that this happens to. So, yeah, I don't do it. I think it's wrong. So they're trying to make scientific evidence, but the science that they're doing is what you see on a commercial. It's like, oh, gee, that makes sense. I'll buy that. And then it turns out that what you buy, you put it in a storage closet or you throw out because it didn't work, Whereas anecdotal evidence in this case seems to be working just fine. We've been floating teeth for hundreds of years, and it's making a big difference to the horses. And just let's leave it where it is, because in my mind, if it ain't broke, why are we trying to fix it?
And I agree. Where can people learn more about you, Dr. Tucker?
Do I have another 30 seconds?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I had a gal who came from Australia who she's been floating teeth for about 9 years, and she came over to America and she took a whole month-long course at one of these equine dentistry schools that is offered here. And then she spent a week with me just to get a feel for what's going on, because she's been to my website, www.theequinepractice.com, and she read my philosophy, which is totally against everything that's going on out there, and she wanted to know more. So I took her to a horse, and this horse was fit. It's in great shape. I asked the rider, who's also the trainer, how's the horse doing? She says, Geoff, you've been doing this horse for years, and there's absolutely nothing going on with this horse. He's perfect on the bit. And may I remind you that this horse is ranked #1 in North America for the sport that it's in. I'm not going to mention the sport or the horse's name, but it's ranked #1, and many of your listeners know who this horse is. I've been doing it for years. And after I got the teeth done, I said to her, what would you do? And she started to do the lateral excursion, and she started to get this mathematical formula, and she started plugging in these numbers. She says, well, you should be cutting these incisors here and doing this. And I said, stop. Why would I do any of that? The horse is #1 in North America. The horse is fit as a fiddle. He's eating just fine. And the rider who's #1 in North America, is saying there's no problem. Why would I go ahead and do all this stuff? So, Glenn, when you talk to me, I'm going to give you common sense equine dentistry and common sense horsemanship. Why are we trying to fix things that really aren't broken?
All right, and that was theequinepractice.com. And Dr. Tucker has a lot of great stuff on there. There's so much more than he's giving us in the tips here, because he also does his own podcasts and has just a lot of great information on there. And that's one of the reasons we have you on this show.
Keep it simple. Thanks. I appreciate it, Glenn.
Well, thank you to Dr. Tucker. As you can tell, he is very passionate about what he does, and very passionate about doing dentistry correctly for horses. And Dr. Tucker will be back with us periodically with a variety of useful tips on the horse's mouth. If you like him and want to learn more, he is at theequinepractice.com. And be sure to watch his video podcasts that he records while driving down the road. You can follow him on Twitter also. He is Equine Practice. I just wanted to remind you, if you didn't get a chance to check back to last week's episode of StableScoop.com, at the Stable Scoop Radio Show with Helena B. and I, we did the annual Valentine's episode, which is always a chuckle and gets a good reaction. So stop over to StableScoop.com and take a listen to our annual Valentine's episode. I know Valentine's is over, but it was still funny. It was a good show. Check it out. And, of course, I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, stay safe, everyone.